It's Ruby here, bringing you guys another video, and today we're doing something very special, very long-awaited, and we're talking about Percy Jackson and the Olympian Disney Plus series, specifically the first 2 episodes that were launched today, that I watched today. Let's delve into it. First of all, can I just say, it is an amazing feeling knowing that we now have something else to show off that is Percy Jackson related, that people can watch, that people can enjoy, and not have it be the movies. Okay, I've been a fan of the Percy Jackson series since 2012, which was honestly my introduction to Percy Jackson was through the Lightning Thief movie. Basically, for those of you who don't know, I watched the movie in theaters, then I read the books all pretty much in one sitting. It was actually, I blew past every single one of them. If it wasn't actually one sitting, it was definitely like the first or second day. I just read through them, lickety split, and then we got into the Heroes of Olympus series that was coming out at that time. So basically, I've been involved with Percy Jackson fandom for a long time. Okay, a long time. It was my first fandom that I was actively involved in as well. I wrote fanfiction, I was engaged in the community, I did some role-playing, I did a lot of things during that time period, and it still is one of the most impactful book series to this day, right next to Harry Potter and Hunger Games and that sort of thing. So for me, Percy Jackson is more personal though, because it is one of my favorite series of all time, if not my favorite series of all time. Just the universe, the world, the Greek gods, the gods in general, and get into the Roman gods and the Egyptian gods, and everything is just so beautifully done, and it is an amazing series to read. And for those of you who don't know, the movies are not at all accurate to the books. There's a lot missing in it, more than usual. The first movie was okay. There were only a couple of really big changes that they made. I mean, plot damaging stories, but it would be very difficult to get into as to what is so different about the movies. And the second one, The Sea of Monsters, maybe it was because I had already read the books at that time, so I had a deeper understanding of the series, but The Sea of Monsters movie is just absolutely nowhere close to what the actual book is, and it's honestly kind of embarrassing that it even exists, because it just isn't even a good movie, let alone a good adaptation. Now, some people do like the movies, which I don't blame you necessarily. I mean, they're not bad in the sense they're unwatchable. I know we Percy Jackson fans tend to exaggerate how bad the movies are because we love the book so much. But there are key differences to the books. Very key differences. And, usually with adaptations, you do have a few changes because not everything that you write on a book will translate into a show or a movie or something, like a video game. There are some things that just don't translate the same. And I would say, getting into the actual show, there are noticeable changes in the show. However, there's a difference between those changes and the changes that were made in the movies. So let's first talk about just my first impression of the show, since that's what this is mostly about, okay? My first impression of the show is that it is a phenomenal adaptation of a book series. And you can see that it has a lot of love and heart. And even if the characters don't necessarily look like how they are described in the book, they are very much their characters, okay? Personality-wise, they are on point for every single one of them. Percy's kind of like a dorky loser. Annabeth is like the stubborn warrior that we know she is, and there's just everything about them is that character. Like, regardless of what they look like, is definitely more important that they act like the characters. That was a huge problem with the movies. Like, I mean, I'm gonna do the comparison because it's very easy to, with The Lightning Thief, to compare the differences between the movie and the books. The movie and the books and the show. See, the thing about it is with the movies, they do changes, of course, but they do changes that affect the plot going forward. For example, one of the big changes that was made in the movies that is completely different from the books is the age of the characters. See, in the books, it is very important for the characters to be a certain age because it is relevant to the plot. Not only are they more relatable, but it literally is dependent on the ages, because you have Percy and you have demigods that the whole point is that demigods, when they get older, they become more attractive to the monsters and they're going to be hunted more likely. So they don't really, like, you would never not know, like, if you're a 16-year-old son of Poseidon, you're going to know that you are a son of Poseidon because everyone's going to want to try to kill you, basically. Like, you are on a hit list and everyone is going to come and kill you. So it's like, there's no way you would reach, like, 16 or, like, 18 without knowing who your parent is, or at least without knowing, like, oh, my parents are a little bit different. Like, you just wouldn't know that. Like, it wouldn't be possible. And the fact is that because they changed the ages of the characters for the first movie, they had to change a lot in the books here. Like, they had to change a lot going forward. Because something that everyone noticed is that in the second movie, when they were explaining the Great Prophecy, which shouldn't have even been mentioned, but when they were mentioning it, they had to change the phrasing, the language of the Great Prophecy. Has nothing to do with being 20 or anything, but they couldn't pass them off as, like, younger than 16. So if you kind of said that you have to be, when reaches 16, you would obviously see, like, they're not like, it wouldn't make any sense. So the thing is, like with the changes that were made in the movie, there were a lot of detrimental results because of it. For example, another example is the fact that they defeated Kronos so early and soon, which is weird to begin with because they're literally, like, they're literally children, and they defeated Kronos in, like, 60 seconds. So, like, not only is that a problem, but the fact is that it would have repercussions down the line. Because the whole point is that Percy has never fought Kronos before. He never has confronted the actual Titan god. Even in the pinnacle of the series, he never actually faces Kronos because that would be ridiculous. He's a 16-year-old. The form of which, and the whole point is that Kronos is also supposed to be weak. Like, he's not supposed to be this strong being. Like, he needs Luke to be his host because he needs to, get regenerate and everything. Now you see the difference in the show. The show does make changes. It is not a word-for-word adaptation of the books. It's not. There are several scenes that they skipped over, or they excluded, or they changed how it maneuvers around, and I think it actually does. It is a good thing to change because of the nature of how the book is written. The book is written first person perspective, in Percy's perspective, and it's very much a narrative, meaning there's a lot of like things that Percy explains in the books as the first person point of view. But in a show, you have to do it in a third person point of view, because I mean there's like only, I think there actually are a couple first person films, but it wouldn't really work for what they need to accomplish, like showing the scene with Grover and stuff like that, showing specific scenes that Percy would not know, but the others would. And I think this is an amazing opportunity to kind of see the differing perspectives of those characters, because we as the fans know what the story is. There's not a lot that would surprise us if they were to go word by word by word. I think it's great that they are taking the liberties to change some of the things, because like we don't need literally the audiobook and then it's done. Like we don't need that. I do like that they include some of the first person narrative like passages. Like obviously they opened up with the iconic opening of Percy Jackson, but you do have to remember that this is a show. It's going to be told in the third person. It's not in the first person. And I think that is the key difference as to why a lot of these scenes did have to change. But there's also not too much of a difference as to what was changed, because they basically just took it in a different direction. For example, we didn't exactly get the scene with the yarn. For those of you who have not read the books, I won't talk about it because it is a bit of a spoiler. But for those of you who have read the books and know about the yarn that I'm talking about, it is a very important moment, but it wouldn't make sense to do it now. It would be a huge setup that I think would ultimately kind of spoil potentially the direction that they're going with the characters. I'm not really sure if I should discuss like what happens in the books, because I don't know who is watching this who has like read the books or not. So I'm just gonna try to only talk about the stuff that we're at right now. So let's try to focus on the first two episodes, which is basically the first like 5 or 6 chapters. I mean, I think it also makes sense that they're not going exactly chapter by chapter as well, and that's why we don't necessarily get all of the scenes, because we are skipping around chapters and we're basically focusing on the main scenes that happen in those chapters. And I think that is a good thing, because it helps us. I mean, it's an 8-episode show. We want to get to the main points of the series. And so as long as we stay with those points, as long as we include like very important scenes, like there is a Percy scene that was of course included that I'm sure we all loved, those who read the books. Because it was cut out of the movie. Actually, there was supposed to be a scene, believe it or not, that did have Annabeth saying, "You drool in your sleep," but they cut it from the movie. There actually is a deleted scene of movie Annabeth, saying, "You drool in your sleep," and they cut it out. Which is ironic, because that was like the one scene that would have actually made it an actual adaptation, but that's okay. I think showing the ages of the characters and having the characters' ages actually match what they're supposed to be is very important, because you now see why the ages are important, because they are important. Here's why the ages are so important to the books, the series, doing in the show. It's because of the way that the demigods work. The way that the nature of the demigods work is the whole, like, the fact that Annabeth is special because she arrived to camp so soon, so young. That is a huge key part of the books, that if that were to change and now suddenly she was either younger or she was extremely old, like, you wouldn't be able to show that difference. You wouldn't be able to show how that affected her because now she's 20 and nobody cares. You need to be able to see why the ages are important, because age is very much integrated into the series. The fact that the Great Prophecy is saying when you reach 16, it is a very important aspect, because for it's the coming of age story for Percy, to go from being a kid to being an adult. I mean, no, 16 is not being an adult, but in a sense for demigods, it kind of is, because they have to grow up so fast. And one thing that I did love seeing is the cabins. They did sort of do the cabins in the movies. It was just more so not really what they were supposed to be. And I think you can see that key difference between what, like, the Hermes cabin looks like in the books. Oh, sorry, in the show versus the movies. I mean, you see that clear difference between the two. And it is so refreshing being able to see these scenes come to life. Even if it is not a word-for-word adaptation, like, we don't get exactly the book, but I think that's also a good thing. Because the thing is, with the books, I mean, they're going to be wordy, they're going to be very narrative-driven. And with a movie, you don't really want that. You don't want too many flashbacks or too many, like, exposition. You just want to get to the point. And getting to the point is exactly what this series does so far with these 2 episodes. I mean, we're literally already at Percy going on his quest, which is good, because you want that to move along, especially when you only have 8 episodes, because each episode is going to be important in showing the moments in the story, and really the better scenes in the story are later. I think everybody can kind of agree. I mean, the Camp Half-Blood is iconic. It is wonderful how much time we spend in Camp Half-Blood, in the show and in the books. It is wonderful. It is cool. It's like, it's so mind-blowing. Like, I would love to go to a Camp Half-Blood. But at the same time, you don't want to linger too much, because the ultimate goal is to get on the quest. Like, we need that to happen. And I'm glad that it has happened. I'm very excited to see how they adapt the series further. Not only this rest of the season, but also how they adapt it in the other seasons, because that's really going to be the test. Because we never got to that part of the series in the movies. Not that I would want to see a 3rd movie. Dear God. No. I don't want to know what they would have done with that. But it's great that we're seeing those little tidbits that will lead us into Sea of Monster, that will lead us into Titan's Curse. And for those of you who don't know, if you're wondering, my favorite book of the series is Titan's Curse. It's actually kind of tied with The Last Olympian. But the Titan's Curse is my favorite because, one, I'm a Zoe simp, but also because it's a Percabeth book. I mean, it really is. It's a Percabeth book. It really evolves their relationship. So that is why I like Titan's Curse so much. Also, because Thalia, and Artemis. Which it'll be interesting to see how they handle Artemis. That'll be kind of interesting. I don't think she's been casted yet. I do hope after the series is all done that we do get Heroes of Olympus, because that would be a very different but familiar show, because it is definitely more mature in terms of like the characters are not older, so they go through a lot more mature elements like identity crisis and stuff like that. So it'll be very interesting, and we get to see the Roman gods, so that would be very interesting to see. Because I also wonder how they would handle a certain son of Hephaestus. And also son of Jupiter. But yeah, I'm very eager and excited because we finally have a proper adaptation. And that's all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the series. If you're gonna talk about spoilers, I don't mind. I don't care about spoilers, but please try to warn people, because there might be people in the comments that don't know about the series. I would love to talk about it. I love talking about Percy Jackson, but please just put a spoiler warning or something so that people know that it will have like book spoilers and stuff like that. I know everything about Percy Jackson, so you can't spoil me, but you can spoil them. So just be mindful when you comment down below, and I look forward to seeing what you guys think of the series so far, and what you think of the portrayals of the characters, because that was a key thing in the movies. The characters did not act like themselves at all. So there we go. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoy. And peace out, guys. It's been a blast. I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.